What is a force.com site? Force.com site is basically
Jen, could you
building.
please mute me? I'm actually unable to mute myself.
Done. Okay, so the force.com site is basically a site that you can build, and this site can be connected to the database of salesforce.com. Okay, so what is the site? It's more like a open public site that you build. Anyone can access it from anywhere. It's not required that the person needs to have a login ID password. It's an open site. Okay, so there will be a URL anyone can access, and on that site you can display the data from your salesforce.com database. All right? And if you're thinking why would you do that, it can be used in several occasions. Let's say if you have a table called products and there are a lot of products listed on that, and you just want to display the list of products on a public page, on a public site, more like a website, right? Then you can use this force.com sites. Or let's say if you're a job uh, staffing company, you have a few vacancies available and you have stored all those data into salesforce.com. Now what you can do is you can just use a site to display all the job vacancies which are there on the salesforce sorry, on the site, and the site can be made public, right? So that is the advantage of a force.com site. So you can actually display your salesforce.com data to public using the force.com site, right? So everyone who is viewing it does not need the login ID password for your account, for your org, right? Okay. So to work with sites, first thing that you have to do is you have to first of all have to get a domain registered, or we call it a subdomain registered. Like when I'm talking about making a site public, I need to have an address, right? A website address. So for that, I need to register a subdomain. Subdomain registration will be done by Salesforce.com itself. They will help you build your own subdomain, and on that subdomain, you can host your site. So all that you need to do is you just need to go to setup, develop sites, and you'll have to get your own unique subdomain, right? So the format is like this: mycompany.force.com. So this is going to be your subdomain, whatever your company name.force.com, right? Since we are using developer edition, here it will be your company name hyphen developer hyphen edition. So it's going to be a slightly longer thing, but usually it's going to be your company name.force.com. So you'll have to check the availability. Let's say I say Shiva. Okay, this is available. This particular address is available. So I'll just need to register it. Register my force.com domain. Right now, this has become a unique address for your site. This is the address for your site. This is where people will access your site. Okay, like every other website, they have a domain address where you access that website. This is your website address. This is where you'll have to host the site. The next thing that you have to do is what do you want to display on this particular site? That needs to be designed using Visualforce. So we have used Visualforce for creating several pages. Now what data I want to display and everything needs to be done on Visualforce. So let me just go to Visualforce and take one of the pages that we have already designed. So when I'm going to create a new page, we'll just use one of the existing pages. Let's say V13. This is the page that I want to display on the site. Do you guys see my screen? What I'm actually doing? The Salesforce screen or Notepad? Sorry,
Yes, Jit. Yes, Jit. We are able to see it.
Shiva.
Salesforce screen.
Salesforce screen. Shiva, I think there is something wrong on your side. So okay, let me just disconnect and connect it back one second. Now, if you can see the Salesforce screen, Shiva, can only see the notepad. I don't know why. Still don't see the notepad Salesforce screen. What do you see now, Shiva? Do you see the Salesforce
Uh,
screen or notepad?
no, Jeet, nothing actually. It's blank. Not even notepad now. Even my mute button is not working. I don't know why.
You do one thing. You just close the meeting and then join back.
Sure.
You're not able to close it. Okay. So yeah. So V13 is the page. All right. Now all that I have to do is I just have to go back and use this page as a site here, right? So let's say you are ready with that page V13. Now you just need to go to the site, click on new. Your site address is ready. All that you need to do is click on new and start creating the page for the site. Whatever name you want to put here and here. So this will be the complete address. This is just your domain and this will be the complete address for your this particular page. Okay. Shiva developer edition force.com/p1. This is going to be the complete address for this visual force page. In active site homepage, you have to select which visual force page you want to display there. And then click on save. Okay, that's it. And yeah, you have to make the site active also. Make it active, save it. So your site is ready. Force.com site is ready. Now once my force.com site is ready, I just need to share this URL with anyone and anyone who has this URL will be able to see the data on the site. So let me put it in the chat window. Can you guys open this site and see if you are able to see the data and all? Just quickly open it and see if you are able to see the data in the chat in the site.
Jeet,
Mm-hmm.
it's not showing the data.
It's not showing the data, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, it will not show. It will not show. Okay. Why it's not showing the data? Because we have not done a small thing which we need to do. We have not controlled the public access setting for the site. So you'll have to go ahead and define what data you exactly want to display on the site. That is what you have to do, and that we have not yet done. So that's the reason why it is not showing you data at this point of time. So how do you do that? Give me 1 second. For the site, you have to define the public access setting, which you define from here. This is where the option is, all right? So you have to use the public access setting to define what data you want to display on the site. Okay, the moment you click on public access setting, give you the option to edit the data access. Now this page, what data are we displaying? We are trying to display accounts, right? So we'll have to give a read access to accounts for the site. Right now the read access is not given. So you just have to go to the public access settings, and for accounts, whatever data, it can be account, it can be opportunity, whatever data you want to display on the site, you just have to go to that particular object and say read, and then click on save. That's it.
जी जीत ये तो प्रोफाइल है राइट बट वी this page can be accessed by anyone who's
So
not a
this is
user
a
of Salesforce
so this is a profile
Store.
meant for this page. Got it?
Okay. Okay.
Controlling permission happens through profile only, right? So there's a profile which gets created for people who are going to access this page. So this is a public profile
Okay.
basically.
Okay. Okay.
Now just go and see if you are able to see data now. Just go and refresh the page.
Yes, we are able to see data.
Now the data comes, right? So whatever data you want to display, you'll have to go to public access setting and you'll have to make that changes. So if you want to give a read permission on account or opportunity or contact, that you'll have to enable here. Fine. So this is something which is very simple and which can help you make some very nice or very interesting portals which can get their data directly from Salesforce.com. So if there's a company which is maintaining their all operations in Salesforce.com and they just want to make it public, some part of it, they can easily do it with the help of sites. Okay, so sites actually helps a lot. Now developer edition, you just have option of creating one site as in one page for the site. On an enterprise edition, you will have an option of creating up to 25 pages. So, using 25 pages, you can almost design a complete good website, right? With all the functionalities and everything. Okay. All right. So that's about our force.com sites. Now, the next thing that we're going to talk is governor limit. Okay, you must have heard a lot of about governor limit. I'm not very sure if you have heard of it or not, but governor limit is a very simple concept actually. It has got to do with the limitations that Salesforce actually imposes on the people who are writing Apex code in Salesforce. All right. So Salesforce actually puts limit on everything. Okay, they put limit on everything that you do in Salesforce. Why? Because it's a multi-tenant environment. It's not your individual server where you can use or you can do whatever you want. Right? It's a multi-tenant environment, and because of that, they have to impose certain limits. So it should not happen that because of your code my org is not working, right? Or the entire Salesforce server actually gets affected just because one person has written incorrect code. So though the limits are imposed on everything in Salesforce, for everything there is a limitation, but it becomes all the more important for Salesforce to control the limits when someone is writing an Apex code, because in Apex code you are writing the logics, you are actually running the loops, you are the one who is instructing the server what needs to be done, correct? So your query, your VML operations. So that's where there is a possibility that you might be writing, or you might write a code, might end up writing a code which is uh, which can affect the performance of other orgs also, correct? So if you have written a big programming code and you are trying to, let's say, update 10 million records. So obviously, that's something which might affect the performance of the other orgs also. So the entire Salesforce.com server will get affected, right? So for that reason, Salesforce has defined a few governor limits, okay? And your Apex programming needs to be written while you're writing Apex program. Why I'm, emphasizing on the Apex programming, because that's where you have the scope of making mistakes. For rest of the things, Salesforce automatically will take care that you don't exceed the governor limit or whatever limit they have defined. So if there is a limit on creating the number of objects, you will not be allowed to create any other object after that. So Salesforce itself will take care of the limits there. But while you are writing the program, and if you don't take care of the limits, then Salesforce will throw you errors while you try to execute that program. Got it? So that's the governor limit part. So the governor limit, mhm. So because Apex runs in a multi-tenant environment, the Apex runtime engine strictly enforces a number of limits to ensure the runaway Apex doesn't monopolize shared resources. So that's what they plan to do. They do not want any particular Apex code to monopolize the resources, shared resources. If some Apex code ever exceeds a limit, the associated governor issues a runtime exception. Okay. So if your code ever exceeds the limit, there is an exception which is thrown and the code will not get executed any further. So you will have the error. So keeping that in mind, that Salesforce puts all these governor limits for the Apex code, you have to make sure that you're trying to write your Apex code in such a way that they do not exceed the governor limits. Okay. So some of the common governor limits are, some of the common limitations are: total number of SQL queries issued in one transaction is 100. Okay. You cannot have more than 100 SQL queries in one transaction. Query execute, we execute the queries, right? So in a transaction there cannot be more than 100 queries issued. One transaction can be a trigger, it can be a method, or it can be a visual force method. Okay. So it can be a visual force method or it can be a trigger. So in that particular transaction you cannot have more than 100 queries executed. Okay. Total number of records retrieved by one SQL query is 50,000. So any SQL query which retrieves more than 50,000 records is will throw error. Okay. So the total number of records which can be retrieved by SQL query should be 50,000. You should not be trying to retrieve more than 50,000 records with the help of a SQL query. Total number of records retrieved by database.getQueryLocator should be 10,000. So if you're using database.getQueryLocator, which is a predefined method, this cannot return more than 10,000 records. Total number of SOSL queries issued in one transaction is 20 only. See, SQL query is 100. You can have only 20 SOSL queries issued in one transaction. Total number of records retrieved by a single SOSL query is 2000. So SOSL cannot retrieve more than 2000 records. Okay. Total number of DML statements issued in one transaction is 150. DML statement is like insert, update, that kind of statements. You cannot have more than 150 DML statements in the in a transaction. Okay. Now, since we have written so many programs during our sessions, tell me, how do you feel about these limitations? Are these limitations okay? I mean, looking at the numbers, that do you feel that 100 SOPL queries is sufficient for us to write the code, or is it something that is very less, or how is it? Just let me know your thoughts. What do you think? What is your first thought about it?
It's very sufficient because like for 50,000 records will be retrieved from SOQL queries. We are like tuning up performance tuning, like we are tuning up a very efficient query means it should only only retrieve around not more than 5,000 to 10,000 or like 50,000. If it is going more than 50,000 records means then our query is not efficient enough.
No, I'm not talking about that part. That is the concept. What I'm saying is that you as a developer, since you have written so many programs, what do you think? The limitations that they are talking about, are they justified? What do you feel? Is it okay? That when if I'm talking about let's say 100
Okay,
queries.
okay,
So do you think it's
okay.
okay for you can still manage with 100 queries, or the limitations that they have given is very less? Is it a comfortable limitation that they have given to the developers like us? And do you think feasible limitations that have been given? What do you feel about it? 150 DML statements, okay, or
Okay.
you think it should have been more?
This limitation regarding one app or one particular application or something,
This
or what?
limitation is one transaction is
Okay, okay.
trigger or one method. So in
That's
one method, how many
okay.
DML statements you can have? Usually, how many DML statements do you put in one method? How many times you use the insert
Man,
statement? One, two,
and
three
in
in
that
one
case, it
method.
is more than enough.
More than enough, or very very too much actually, right? How many times you will write
Yes,
insert?
it's
I
more
mean,
than enough. Right.
150
It
times.
is more than enough.
Like how many queries will you write? So usually one, two, three
Hardly
queries.
4 5,
Hardly four.
hardly 4 or 5. Then
How many queries we are gonna write? 100 queries? Who is gonna write? So where is the problem? A lot of people struggle with this. Why I'm asking this question, because I actually want you to understand a concept which I do not want to tell you straightforward, but I want you to understand. A lot of people struggle with this. A lot of programmers, uh, you know, struggle very badly with the governor limits. What is the possibility? Then see seriously, a program cannot have 150 DML statements written. Then why people still face issue? I mean, I don't think, I have not seen a code where I have seen 150 DML statements written anywhere. I've not seen any code as such where 150 DML statements were written. So but still, why do people struggle with it? How does that happen? This governor limit concept, as you guys said correctly, the limitations that have been given are more than enough, right? Just that if you are writing the code in the right way. Now just look into this, understand this thing. This is a very simple thing and important for you to understand. For opportunity O in ops, let's say this ops is list of opportunities, okay? You do something and after that you say update O. Now what will happen? Every time the for loop runs, this will run, correct? The DML statement gets executed. Now if there are more than 150 records in this list of opportunities, what will happen? You will hit the kernel limit, correct?
150 DML.
Logic? This is where most of the people actually struggle. You put your DML statement inside a for loop or any loop, that's where you will make a mistake. Otherwise, there is no way, no one is going to write update statement 150 times. Actually, we don't need that many of them. But the problem will come if you have put a DML statement inside a for loop. Because a list of records can have any number of records. This OPS can be, size of OPS can be 200. If the size of OPS is 200, it will straight away throw error. Correct? So ideally, you should never ever put a DML statement inside a for loop. The same way, the same thing works for query also. I'm talking about 100 queries, which seems to be a very good, limit. We should be absolutely fine with that, and we should not have any problem writing a program with this kind of limitation. But still, you will have error if you have written a query inside the for loop. If your query is being written here inside the for loop or inside any of the loops, then the problem will come. The moment there are more than 100 records, this query will run more than 100 times. Got it? So this is where the problem comes, right? So what is the solution to that? The solution to that is simple. You just keep the DML statements outside, DML statements and the queries outside the uh, for loops and all. Okay, so that's what should be done. The DML statements and the queries should be kept outside the loops. Alright, so if you do that part, then you will see most of your governor limit issues have got resolved. So this is a rule of thumb for you. Whenever you are writing a code, keep this in mind that I do not need to write a query inside a loop, and I do not need to write a DML statement inside a loop. Then what will I do? If this is the case, and if I'm trying to update something, then what should I do? Or if let's say I'm trying to insert something here, insert one record called A into, let's say, account. So you should try to do it something like this. Instead of writing it this way, you should try to accumulate the data inside the loop and perform DML outside the loop. Let's say whatever your for loop is, list of accounts, and somewhere you should be just doing dot add a, okay, inside the loop, and this DML statement should get updated. Sorry, not list of accounts, should be list of operations. Data number. So fine, and this update statement should come here, and this update statement should be used for the list. Then what is happening? For the entire list, I have just consumed one DML statement. Correct? If I do it for each individual record, if I put it here instead, then if I say update O, what I've done? In this case, I've accumulated all the individual records into a list, and then I perform a DML statement for the entire list. So that means, the advantage that I have is I am not consuming the DML statements. I'm not consuming 150. Even there are 500 records, it will not have a problem. It's taking one DML statement. If you try to do it this way, this is the wrong way. This way you will consume DML statement for each single record. Got it? So try to keep your DML statements outside the loop, SOQL queries outside the loop, SOSL queries outside the loop is the best way of uh, getting rid of these governor limits, or just being cautious about the governor limits. Got it? Let me know if there is any doubt here. Any question, doubt, please let me know. No, we are good. Okay. Shiva has a question, I guess. Shiva, you have something to ask? I just saw there.
No, Jeet, nothing actually. I'm not able to mute or unmute, so I'm
Yeah,
typing
it
everything in
doesn't
the
matter.
window.
Yeah, I'll mute you. No worries. All right. So a very simple thing, just keep it in mind whenever, wherever you're writing a program, keep it in mind that you will not write any until unless until unless it's necessary and you do not have an option, you do not have a way out. Don't do it inside a for loop. You can just come out of the for loop. For loop is gonna run multiple times. You just need to accumulate the data, come out of it, and perform the DML statement. This is also called, we call it bulkifying our DML statements. Bulkifying DML statements. Okay. So what is bulkifying DML statement? The same thing. Instead of performing a DML statement for one record and pasting it, just use it for the whole lot of record, the complete list of records. So that makes life easier for you. Right. So that is it. Okay. So that's about the governor limits in Apex programming.